Thanks for listening to Leadership Level Up. I'm Brian Prairie.
And I'm Dr. Jeff Williamson.
I am just starting my leadership journey.
And I've been guiding leaders for 30 years.
Our podcast aims to shine a spotlight on outstanding leaders and provide a platform for them to describe their leadership journey and share the guiding principles that have helped them become great leaders.
Welcome to Leadership Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Williamson, my co-host, Brian Prairie. And we have such a delightful guest today. Celeste Kelly is with us. And we were telling her before we started recording that it was really a flip because she has an extensive career in media, television, and communication. But we've got her on the opposite side of the table doing what she's so familiar with. But thanks. We'll learn a lot more, but we're really excited to have you here.
I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited about what you guys are doing and sharing it with everybody.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's been just a joy to hear people's story. And that's really what we're here for, is just to hear more about your journey and what leadership looks like. And what are some characteristics of good leaders that you've seen and embodied over the years of your career? So, man, we'll just kind of throw it out there and let you story tell. So take it away, Celeste.
Thank you. I've never thought of myself as a leader.
That seems to be a typical answer.
I think so. But when I think of a leader or someone who I have my entire career looked at as a leader, it was my first second television boss for the PBS station in Peoria. And he was a hands-on guy. Everybody knew what he expected. He didn't have to lecture. He would work right alongside. My first show was an audience participation, so he would help set up the studio. He's the station manager. He helped set up the studio. We had, I think I told you before, we had Bradley University interns helping us, so they learned from him. And later in their careers, they would go, looking back, I can't believe it was the station manager who greeted all of the guests.
Oh, wow.
He was humble. He was passionate about television. He was passionate about public television. And those days were the golden era of public television. He loved what he was doing and he loved sharing it. And I think that's part of what made him a good leader. Years later, we found out things about him that nobody knew. He didn't ever talk about. He was a war hero. He was all kinds of things that nobody ever knew, because whether it was strike a set at midnight, he was right there with us always. Mm-hmm. And so from the very beginning for me, that's what a leader is. A leader is your coworker, somebody you look up to, somebody who says, okay, here's what the line is, but what do you need? He never said no. Never said no. What do you need? How can I help you? So those are, to me, really had high character.
Right.
He had a strong faith life.
Mm-hmm.
He valued his employees. He had valued his job. He valued our audience. He had a high degree of value for everybody. And so, to me, I guess those are a whole lot of things that went into making Elwin Basquin who he was, and everybody who ever worked for him said the same thing. How lucky were we? How lucky were we to work for somebody like that? Very.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have considered himself a leader?
No.
Really? Okay.
No. We did a few years ago, did a retrospective and a documentary really about him. He just didn't know it till the end.
What's going on here?
What's going on? Yeah. Can we tell the story? Oh yeah, you can do it. You're the one. You can do it. But I mean, he was just amazing in so many ways. And so, no, I don't, he knew, I mean, that was his job. His job was to be the station manager, right. But would he have ever said, I'm the big guy, I'm the leader here? No.
Okay.
Yeah, because that sounds more like ego, and he doesn't sound like that. I was hearing humility and modeling and engagement and a sense of equality across the team. It's like, you need me to grab that? Okay.
Right.
Where'd you like it?
Ego is a good word. He didn't function from his ego. I never saw it. I don't think anybody ever did. So,
and I think most of the leaders that really endear themselves to us fit that kind of mold.
I think so too.
That it's really not about me. It's
Right.
about you and you and you and you and what we're
And
doing
us.
together.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And what we're doing, in those days, PBS in the beginning was really a lot about children.
Mhm.
Had a big family, and so he was all about children. He used to, the begging for dollars, the pledge.
Right. Yeah.
We used to just call it begging for dollars because we were
yeah.
always
Fundraisers,
asking for
yeah.
money. And I was a single mom at the time, and I can
Mhm.
remember taking my son on some days when it was a weekend and I had to work. And there'd be a couple times I'd run down the hall for a makeup or a potty break, whatever. And I'd come back and my son John would be on the set with Elwin, and Elwin would be interviewing him. And I'm like, what is it? What have I
just
said to
happened
him?
here?
What just happened? And Elwin said, this couldn't have been any better if I had scripted him.
Right.
But John loved PBS. He loved Sesame Street. He loved all the children's programming that in that era were really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it sounded like he knew how to communicate with young and old.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody at every level. And, another, for me, back to the leadership idea, this man hadn't been in Peoria before. So I don't know if you know too much about Peoria. It's mid-sized market,
Mhm.
kind of what I would always call a nice, big, small town.
Yes,
Both-
I think
both
that's
and.
a good way to describe it.
Both and. So people who lived there and kind of ran Peoria didn't know him. He made friends faster than anybody I have ever met. And not just friends who would come and volunteers. He treated the volunteers the same way he treated donors who were capable of giving 5 and 6 figure gifts. Everybody was the same because we all had the same goal. We're going to make this the best thing for this area that we can do. And
That's great.
leading.
Truly leading. Yeah.
Bringing people together and doing it in a way he just
New.
sounds like such a humble,
No, there was no playbook.
disconnected previously, not in a negative way, but just they
Right.
weren't connected. And it sounds like he had a way to bring people
Exactly.
together across the spectrum, and everybody
Exactly.
was somebody to
E-
Owen.
Everybody was somebody to him. And whether they volunteered or whether they, as I said, gave money. But everybody, he was able to, the other thing about him, he was able to articulate a vision to people who he didn't know. He had such passion for television. I mean, it wasn't his first television job. He had such passion for television and bringing this particular brand of television to life. And I think that passion and, wanting as many people, come on, let's work together. And it worked.
What a great station manager
Yes.
description especially for PBS in that era, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly
it was.
it's exactly what Peoria needed, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was.
One of the things that I've often, when we've talked to folks about leadership, is one, they almost always say they don't think of themselves or
I'm not a
their
leader.
favorite people as leaders. But I'm always quick to say leadership is influence. See, and he had influence. You and I have influence. Brian and I have influence, and it comes down to how do we act? What do we model? What do we do with and for other people? Because that's influence, and then we can help lead a team or lead a community or whatever to do great things together, and that's where the magic happens.
Right, the togetherness.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody has to be the producer or the leader or the director or
Sure.
whichever. But doing it together is a big
It's
deal.
that synergy. That's where a lot of that joy comes from.
Oh,
where we
yes.
can all link arms and say, goodness, look at what we were able to do together.
Mhm.
Yes.
And that inspires us. And
Oh yeah.
now I know it inspires you too.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and the whole reason Celeste is here is because I consider her a leader for me.
Mhm.
When we worked on a project, if I can share this brief story, working
Of course.
she hired me to help her with a project, and let's just say it was a difficult client, and but she met them with ferocity, but also not anger, just like because you were passionate about what the thing we were doing, and you brought me along with you, and I felt so lucky to be a part of that, just because, and even though it was a very difficult project, it just made me feel like, and I had been doing this for a while, and you showed me things I'm like, oh man, I never thought about telling a story this way, or even editing. Like there were so many things that just little nooks and crannies that you kind of did for me, and I truly respect you for that, and that's why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just,
Yeah,
what's the expression?
Pass the Kleenex, right?
I mean, things like that. It's not embarrassing. I don't expect that.
Right, and I don't
none
either.
of us, I
you
think
don't
none
either.
of us do.
Yeah.
But what a joy to hear
Yeah.
that you had that reaction.
Well, and that's why we've kept in touch for all
Well,
these
I was going
years.
to say, and so I loved working with you. I've had, I'm not technical, never have been, not ever going to be.
Yeah.
That's why you have people over there.
Yeah.
Know your strengths.
Right.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, I've always worked with the camera operator, the sound guy, the lighting guy. And in my era, they were guys.
Mhm.
Today, there are a lot more young women who are pursuing that side of the camera,
Thankfully,
which is a really great thing.
Yes.
But there's a synergy. There's a synergy when you work with someone like we were working together that you can't beat and you can't find anywhere else. It's really rare. I think I would say, let's see, if I'm going to be really honest, 3, and you're included in that group of
Oh wow.
people that I have
That's a
worked
pat
with.
on the back.
That truly is.
Yeah.
Who share my vision, share my passion, aren't afraid to stand up for what's right. Because sometimes the pushback, you have to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
Because when this is what you do and this is who you are, there's an internal knowing this is right and this isn't right.
Mhm.
And part of your character comes out, I think.
Yeah.
Not your ego, but your character willing to stand up for something that's right. So anyway, thank you. Back at you.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. That is high praise. I know,
Yeah.
and I'm not good at taking that either, but I will kind of just
It's
let
I
that
said,
settle.
Just
Yeah.
say thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
well, take it. But because
Yeah.
I go back to the same thing. The first person was from California, San Francisco. I grew up in Gilman.
Yeah. A little ways east
Yeah.
from there.
A big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And so there were, but we became so close, and we had such a great synergistic. We didn't have to talk. We could finish each other's sentences after a while. Same with the next man, the co-producer for the documentary that I was just talking about.
Right.
We don't, very rarely do we have to talk. We just knew. We just knew we were on the same page. And again, he was a great leader. He went on to have a brilliant television career. But the connection that people make when they're doing something that they're passionate about doesn't matter where you're doing it, doesn't matter who you're doing it with or for. It becomes service.
Yeah.
Service
Yeah.
is another
Yeah.
word for a leader,
Right.
a servant.
Servant leadership is something that is a term that I've heard and read about and studied for years. And I was thinking that's why you get leaders who'd say, oh, I don't know if I'm a leader or not, because their focus is out here.
Right.
Not, look at me or
Something-
look what I've done.
Something bigger.
Yeah.
Something bigger than we are.
Yes.
Right.
Seeing the bigger picture and knowing that there's a bigger picture to be seen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that qualified. I think any wise leader loves to think about having something that goes beyond them
Oh, yes.
individually,
Yeah.
to have even a sense of legacy or tradition of how they work, because then it's multiplied in people like you and us who then can go and do their profession in that caring, gentle, kind, in almost intuitive way and connect with people. Because it's one of those things like, boy, when we have it, we know it. And when we don't, we know it.
Oh, exactly. When it's right and it clicks and the scene is perfect,
Yep.
the lighting, the sound, the energy.
Yeah.
There's
something magical about that.
There is magic.
But it also, there's knowing, like you said, like there's in the, you've done it for a long enough. You see it. There's magic in that, but there's just the knowledge you've built over time, and just how you can read people. Because when you're interviewing somebody, you can tell when they're kind of like either shying away or something like that. And then if you start driving them more, they're just going to keep shying away. So just kind of knowing, just the knowing, I think is.
Well, knowing in that sense, but also for me, knowing that this surely must be in my DNA.
Yes.
It's
I was
part
made
of,
for this.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's part of who I really am. My parents were musicians. And so when my grandmother played piano for the silent movies.
That's cool.
I'm
really
not
cool.
talented in that way, but somehow I must have inherited the DNA of a creative person.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. And that
And I think we all
openness
do.
to
Yeah.
performing whatever it is we're good at.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And when we know we're doing something that we're pretty good at and it helps other people and they enjoy it, case closed, right? Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
Well, I think creativity is such a large umbrella that some people think, well, I'm not creative. I don't draw, I don't paint. Well, that's only like
Part of it.
Like
sliver of
1%,
creative.
right?
Yeah. There's so much to creativity, and it's everywhere. It's in coding, it's in plumbing, it's in things you may not think that it's
Right.
actually in, but it's there.
Right.
So when somebody says they're not creative, I kind of just scoff and like, well, you probably are. Right? And then we get talking and they're like, oh yeah, I guess I am creative. I do this, I do that.
It's similar to someone saying, oh, I don't think I'm a leader. I'm saying, I don't think I'm creative. And it's like,
Well,
oh, I think you do.
I was just going to say another mark of a leader is someone who encourages. What you're just talking about is someone who encourages. Let yourself open up and bloom and grow and let all of that out.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
We all
I
need
think,
somebody to encourage
I think
us.
that's so true. And that's, I spent a lot of years in higher ed, and that's the greatest joy for me is those times where I can say, oh, I can totally see you doing that, and have a student going, you think so? I'm like, oh no, I know. So you're going to be so good at that. Oh my gosh. And help share that with him. And then of course you experience this too, 4, 5, 10 years later, somebody comes back and touches base. And I usually am not a guy to say, I told you so, but they'll come back and say,
you think to yourself,
I'm doing this. And sometimes I just say, remember we had coffee your senior year. I told you this was going to happen. I told you you're going to be awesome. And now you're doing it.
I love it.
That's what excites me too.
Yeah. Well, a leader.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Influence.
A leader is a teacher, is an encourager, is, I mean.
Do you think of yourself as a teacher?
I didn't.
Doing what you're doing?
I didn't until.
He's gotten there in this year.
Yeah, I would say I didn't until a professor we work with at a local college. She's like, you have a teacher's heart. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, and she's like, no, every student I talk to says you're very patient, but you also are so willing to just, sit down with them and teach them. And I'm like, well, yeah. I actually was like, well yeah.
Oh, shucks.
Thank
you.
I mean, I'm like, my knowledge isn't sacred,
That's
so
just
I want
to
to pass it to the. I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, especially in our field, like audio and video and creatives, and really in general, just like when you find somebody that wants to listen to the very niche things. Oh yeah, you want to know more? Okay, sure. Here's more.
So you do have a teacher's heart.
I do. So yeah, I just kind of realized that actually probably within the last year or so. Yeah.
I don't think I actually ever said to him, oh, I know. Oh, you totally have a teacher's heart.
Yeah.
But I totally agree that he does.
Yeah. But it took someone telling me because I was like, well, I'll just be me.
Right.
Well, that goes back to what you said earlier, ego. You don't work from your ego. And so,
thank you.
So if you think you don't think about who you are and what your gifts are.
Right.
You recognize them and you say yes to them.
Yes.
Which is so important.
Yeah.
But you're not coming at it from your ego.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know,
That's good.
And no, it is. It's very good. And I think it's something that I always strived, because I always saw the opposite, with several leaders that interacted with me, is like, oh, this is my way or the highway. It's
Here's
like,
your
well,
orders, right?
okay, that's great.
Or
okay,
not.
I'll do it. I'll do it, but I'm not really willing to offer anything else, because you don't want anything else.
Right.
So seeing that, I was like, I don't want, I mean, I may have told Jeff that I did want this at one time. Like, I don't want clones of Brian's, working for me. I want, Matt, who's helping us here. He's creative in his own ways. And then there's Luke, and then there's Drew. Everybody has their own niche and thing that they're really good at. And I want to cultivate that. And I don't want clones of me, because I think 4 different brains working on a creative solution is way better than just a single brain.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to nurture that as much as I can, because I'm like, I can kind of give you the basics to get where, to understand something more, but I want you to figure some other things out.
Well, and isn't that how you become, or all of us become better and better and better?
Yes.
We have to be better than we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Not from an ego,
No.
but from
I'm growing.
I'm growing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Growth mindset.
Yeah.
Or as my grandson says, exactly.
Exactly.
I like that.
I'll take that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
When you're feeling stuck, like what is something you like to do? Because something I used to do that wasn't very helpful was I try to just throw myself into it for hours on end and then get frustrated and walk away. It was the walk that actually I realized, like, oh, this is what I need to do more of, because when I come back, I'm like, oh, I have this idea.
Walk more and do less. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that, I don't know, I always tell everybody it's a very Midwestern kind of mindset of just like, put your shoulder into it and just kind of make it happen. It's like,
plowing ahead.
No, that's not actually a very efficient way to do things. But like, so what did you do, Celeste? A walk. Okay.
A walk. Well, a break, a walk, change up, whatever it is I'm doing, turn my brain off to the problem and do something that brings me some kind of joy or pleasure. Go outside, watch the birds, go for a walk, clear the cobwebs, clear the whatever. And then I pray about it.
Okay.
And usually by the time the walk, the birds sing to me and I pray, there's some kind of an answer.
Right.
You're able to come back to that problem and go, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Right.
Let's try this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it gets rid of the frustration,
Oh,
which
yeah.
contributes to the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The more frustrated I get, the more closed-minded I get.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of gets locked up.
And you know what? The other thing, sometimes, is it hard for you to say, okay, wait, I need to just put this down for a little bit and walk away? Is the part of you that is driven to do this work saying to you, oh, no, you can't stop. You can't stop. You have to keep going. You have to keep going.
The driven part of me, and also we're beholden to the client. Like, we have a deadline. So
Right.
that's also, so that's something like, oh, it's looming. It's right over, it's right over there.
Right.
So that makes it very hard to kind of just like, oh, well, just go take an hour walk. Like, well, no, if I'm spending 2 hours on it and getting nowhere, like, well, yeah, the hour walk would have been way more efficient.
Right. Or a 15-minute walk.
That even, yeah. So,
or a HIIT routine.
Yeah. Well, so what a good practice for me has been is recognizing that frustration earlier and being like, oh, I'm getting frustrated. Let's do something. Like usually when I'm getting frustrated, like I'll go talk to the other editors and maybe work something out, or just go take a walk, or go talk to Jeff. Find an outlet,
or talk to the person that you're working with and say, I'm stuck.
Oh,
what do you think?
And I think is what I love most about what we do is it's so very collaborative, and I love working with all the people we work with. And I think the most beautiful thing about it is that when we are creating, like, your ideas here, Jeff's ideas here, my ideas here, and then the ideas kind of mixed in, and then it's nobody's idea, and it's just kind of it's everybody's. And then
this big, beautiful new thing.
Yes,
right.
and
it's back to what we were saying earlier. It's like, look at what we did.
Yes.
I love that.
Oh, that's terrific. That's probably just the bow to put on our conversation.
I think so.
That was so good.
Yeah.
So we could continue the conversation. We will in the future. But thanks so much for being here with us. It's great to have you.
Absolutely,
this has been rich.
My pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep saying yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Leadership Level Up. Please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations with great leaders.